Dida stuck around in school for a while though. He was always into sports and did a lot of boxing, and at 15, he won a local tournament. On-site Dida went from beating murder charges to signing $1 million deal with Cash Money Records. This is his wild come-up. On-site Dida is from a small town in Louisiana called Abbeville. Only about 12,000 people live there, but that don't mean the streets ain't active. There's not much to do in small towns but look for trouble, and that's exactly what Dida found. He hopped off the porch at 13 and started running the streets. It's not clear what kind of charges he got booked on back in the day because he was still a minor, but Dida says he's been in and out of juvie basically his whole life. Dida stuck around in school for a while though. He was always into sports and did a lot of boxing, and at 15, he won a local tournament and got a spot in a bigger competition. His mom wasn't rocking with the idea though. She wanted him to put the gloves down and quit boxing, so Dida moved out and went to stay with one of his homies. His homie didn't have a spot for him inside the house though, so Dida ended up living in the backyard shed. He didn't have anything out there and had to use a water fountain outside just to brush his teeth. His family tried to get him to come back home, but Dida stayed in his homie's shed and ended up diving way deeper into the streets. The first official charge we know about goes all the way back to 2012 when Dida pleaded guilty to resisting arrest and interference with an educational institution after something went down at Northside High School. A year later, he pleaded guilty to theft of goods under $500. And in 2014, he was booked again for resisting arrest after the cops tried to pull him over, but he did the dash. Dida was in the streets full time, and he never thought about making a career out of rap. Abbeville didn't have any kind of music scene when he was coming up, but Dida would rap for his homies sometimes, and eventually they made him go to the studio and actually record something. He dropped his first track, Fuck It, and the video hit over 30K views in 2 weeks. Popping off like that ain't easy for an underground artist in the middle of nowhere, and it was clear from the jump that Dida had what it took to make it out of his city. But before he could hop in the booth and really go hard, Dida got caught up in a wild case that almost got him 50 years. In December 2015, the cops brought down a huge indictment against the Gremlins gang. Dida says they're just a rap collective, but the cops claim they were out in the streets committing murder, intimidating witnesses, and moving heavy weight too. Dida told DJ Smalls Eyes about the crazy day when everything went down. Dida said he got a call that day and someone said his cousin had been shot. Dida didn't know what the situation was, but then the cousin who got shot called him and said he was all good. They got off the phone, and when Dida tried to call him back, his aunt picked up and said that his cousin had just been booked on racketeering charges. Dida didn't even know what racketeering charges were back then, so he was even more shocked when another aunt called him and said they booked his mom for it too. The cops arrested 10 alleged Gremlin affiliates that day, but Dida did the race and took off running. He spent 90 days on the run, and there were 17 people listed in the indictment, but Dida is the only one who got called out to have a gunfight with the police captain. One of the wildest parts of the story is when a police captain named Higgins made a video and called Dida out by name. In the video, Higgins is holding a rifle, wearing a bulletproof vest, and standing in front of an army of cops. For some reason, he decided to insult Dida and said,
"You think men like these are afraid of an uneducated, 125-pound punk like you that's never won a fair fight in your life and holds your gun sideways?"
The video went viral and racked up millions of views, and civil rights activists ended up getting involved too. Higgins was asked to apologize for the crazy speech, but instead, he decided to resign from the police and went into politics instead. Dida ended up turning himself in later, and that's when he found out that he was facing 50 years. What's wild is that he had only been out of juvie for 3 weeks when the indictment came down, but going to real jail was a whole different world. And there, he saw dudes fighting, getting stabbed, and getting locked up for life. It was a crazy situation already, but it was about to get even worse for him. Before he was named in the Gremlin gang indictment, Dida was arrested in connection to the death of a dude named Christopher Trent. Trent was shot to death in April 2015, and Dida was booked on principal to second-degree murder. They let him out on the charge, but while he was in jail for the Gremlin indictment, they hit him with another charge for accessory after the fact in the Trent case. Dida knew a lot of dudes who had beat cases like that before though, so he did some research and found one of the best attorneys in the area. But even though he had a good legal team in his corner, he was still in jail for 2 years fighting the case. Eventually, the charge for Christopher Trent's death got dropped, and that's when Dida was finally able to bond out. He lost 2 years of his life behind bars already, but it wasn't long before another wild situation got him locked up again. In 2018, Chasten Guidry was shot in Abbeville and was found dead in a vehicle. According to reports, he was shooting dice with some people when an argument broke out. We don't know who escalated the situation first, but at some point, one of them upped a strap and killed Guidry. The cops didn't have any leads for a while, but in 2019, they booked Dida on a second-degree murder charge for killing him. That wasn't the only legal trouble he had though. Before they booked him on the murder charge, Dida already had warrants out for simple battery, battery of a correctional facility officer, criminal damage to property, and resisting arrest.